All right, so the first video prompt is, why is it important for company leaders to seek employee feedback about their successes and challenges? And what should leaders do with the feedback they obtain? So it's definitely crucial for company leaders to actively seek employee feedback about their successes and challenges for a multitude of reasons. One of those reasons is because it fosters a culture of open communication and trust. And the reason why I say that is because when leaders consistently solicit feedback, that signals to employees that their opinions are valued and that they actually have a voice in the company. And that in turn builds trust, and it's going to encourage open and honest communication. And that's going to be essential for a healthy work environment. Another reason would be because it improves employee engagement and morale. When employees feel heard and appreciated, they're more likely to be engaged in their work, and in turn, they're going to have a higher morale. So, knowing their input matters. It's going to boost motivation and also commitment to the company's success. My third reason is because it identifies area for improvement. So, when employees are on the front lines of the business, they often have valuable insight into what's working well and what needs improvement. And their feedback can actually highlight operational bottlenecks, process inefficiencies, or even potential problems before they escalate. Another reason is because it enhances leadership effectiveness. See, when leaders, even the best ones, have blind spots. So if they receive feedback from employees, this can provide them with different perspectives, and it can help these leaders to understand how their actions and decisions are perceived. So this is going to allow them to adjust their leadership style, improve communication, and make more informed decisions. Furthermore, it drives innovation and creativity. Employees may have innovative ideas or creative solutions to challenges that leaders may not have considered themselves. So, encouraging feedback can unlock this potential, and it'll lead to new products, services, or even ways of doing business. Now, a final reason I came up with was because it strengthens decision making. By gathering diverse perspectives from employees, we can lead to more informed and well rounded decision making. This way, leaders can make better choices that consider the impact on all levels of the organization. Seeking employee feedback is a critical practice for both effective leadership and organizational success because it creates a cycle of improvement. And this leads to more engaged workforce, better decisions, and a stronger company culture. But it goes even further because once leaders have gathered feedback from their employees, they need to actually do something with it. And this is where the real work begins. So the first thing leaders should do with the feedback they receive is analyze and understand it. They need to read and review. And this would be carefully going through all the feedback they receive. And then they could look for patterns, recurring themes, and even areas for consensus or disagreement. And then this way they can categorize it. And what I mean by that is they would group similar feedback together, and then they could identify key areas of concern or strength. And then they'll be able to identify the root causes and not just focus on the symptoms, but be able to dig deeper and actually understand the underlying reasons behind the feedback they're receiving. The next step they should take is communicate and acknowledge. And this starts with transparency. So they need to share the overall themes of the feedback with the employees. And this will demonstrate that their input was heard and taken seriously. And then show the employees appreciation. Leaders should thank them for their honesty and their participation and acknowledge that it took time and effort to provide that feedback. And then obviously they need to take action and actually implement the changes. They need to prioritize. Based on the analysis, prioritize the most critical areas for improvement and develop action plans. Create concrete plans with specific steps, timelines, and assign responsibilities to address the feedback. And then implement and track the progress. Put the plans into action and regularly monitor progress. communicate updates to employees so we can actually show them that their feedback is leading to tangible changes. And then finally, they need to follow up and seek further input. By following up after implementing changes, they can get their feedback and the effectiveness of the actions taken. And then continuous improvement can be made by seeking feedback on an ongoing process, not just making it a one-time event. Regularly soliciting input to ensure that the company is continually improving. So some important things to consider, in all of this is leaders need to be open to criticism. It's essential to be receptive to both positive and negative feedback just as importantly. Then they need to focus on solutions. Don't just dwell on the negative, but find constructive solutions to address the feedback. And be patient because change takes time. Don't expect to see results overnight. Be persistent and continue to work on improvements over time. The second video question is, why is it necessary or desirable for employees to understand how and why a company change is taking place? To what extent do you think this best practice is actually followed in the real world? So it's incredibly important for employees to understand how and why behind company changes. The first reason why it's important is because it reduces resistance and fear, because uncertainty breeds anxiety, and change naturally creates uncertainty. So when employees don't understand the reasons or the process, they may fear for their jobs, their roles, or the future of the company. This can lead to resistance, stress, and decreased productivity. Also, transparency builds trust. Open communication about the change process helps employees feel included and valued. It shows that their concerns are being acknowledged, which builds trust in leadership. Another reason is because it increases buy-in and support. You see, shared understanding fosters commitment. And when employees understand the why behind a change, they're more likely to see its necessity and how it benefits them and the company. This leads to greater buy-in and a willingness to support the change. Also, motivation and engagement. You see, employees who understand the purpose of a change are more likely to be motivated to contribute to its success. They become active participants rather than passive observers. Another reason is because it facilitates smooth transitions. And it does this by setting clear expectations. Understanding the how of change helps employees adapt and adjust their work accordingly. It sets clear expectations and minimizes disruptions. Also, it creates effective implementation. Employees who understand the change process can better contribute to its implementation. They can identify potential challenges, offer solutions, and support their fellow colleagues. Communicating the how and why of company changes is an investment in your employees. It fosters trust, encourages collaboration, and ultimately it increases the likelihood of a successful transition. But on the other hand, in my opinion, unfortunately, while communicating the how and why of change is a recognized best practice, it's often not fully implemented in the real world. There's a significant gap between what companies should do and what they actually do. And I say this because there's a few common barriers that cause this. The first one is a lack of time and resources. Change initiatives often come with tight deadlines and limited budgets. So communicating effectively takes time and effort, which may be perceived as a luxury. Also, the fear of negative reactions can hinder this. Leaders may worry that explaining the reasons for change, especially if they involve difficult decisions like layoffs or restructuring, will lead to negativity, resistance, or even panic. Also, underestimating the importance of communication is a big barrier because some organizations still view communication as a secondary concern, focusing primarily on the logistical aspects of change rather than the human element. Another thing is poor communication skills. Leaders may lack the skills or training to communicate effectively, especially during challenging times. They may struggle to convey complex information clearly and empathetically. Now, another barrier is the need to know mentality, often seen in organizations such as the military or larger corporations. Some organizations operate on need to know basis, believing that employees only need to be informed about changes that directly affect them. This can create a culture of distrust and exclusion. So, while there are companies that prioritize communication and do it well, many still fall short. Studies show that a significant percentage of change initiatives fail, and poor communication is often cited as a major contributing factor. The third video prompt is: do you think that promoting a communal culture is compatible with promoting company diversity? Why or why not? So, I think yes, it's absolutely possible to promote a communal culture while also promoting company diversity. But it requires a thoughtful approach. And here's why I say that. Because first, there's potential compatibility. Shared values and goals are a part of this because they create a communal culture which emphasizes shared values, collaboration, and a sense of belonging. This can be very powerful in bringing together diverse individuals by providing a common ground and fostering mutual respect. Also, it is because of inclusion and equity. A truly communal culture prioritizes inclusivity and equity, ensuring everyone feels valued, respected, and has equal opportunities. So, this creates a space for diverse perspectives. Also, there's the aspect of learning and growth. Diversity brings a wealth of perspectives, experiences, and backgrounds. In a communal culture, this diversity can foster learning, innovation, and better problem solving, so people can learn from each other and grow from each other. But there are some potential challenges, and the first one is unintentional exclusion. If communal culture is interpreted too narrowly, it can lead to pressure to assimilate, and this could undermine diversity. Also, there's an aspect of dominant culture which could be a potential challenge. So even with good intentions, a strong communal culture can sometimes be dominated by a particular group, making it harder for minority voices to be heard or for different culture practices to be respected. And then there's the aspect of conflict avoidance. A strong emphasis on harmony and consensus in a communal culture might actually discourage healthy debate and disagreement, and these are essential for leveraging diverse perspectives. But there are ways to make it work, such as defining communal inclusively. Emphasize shared values and goals while explicitly valuing individual differences and diverse perspectives. Also, promote psychological safety. Create an environment where everyone feels safe to express themselves, even if their views differ from the majority. The most important thing, in my opinion, is to lead by example. As a leader, we must model inclusive behavior and challenge any instances of bias or exclusion. Promoting a communal culture and promoting company diversity are not mutually exclusive. By being mindful of the potential challenges and actively working to create an inclusive environment, companies can build a strong community that thrives on the richness of its diverse perspectives. So the fourth video prompt is: do different cultures experience high power or low power distance in business as a reflection of their mode of political governance? Explain your answer. The short answer is yes. There's a strong correlation between a country's political governance and the power distance experienced in its business culture. So for the first half, I'll talk about power distance. And pertains to high power distance. Cultures with high power distance accept and expect inequalities in power distribution. This is reflected in hierarchical structures. centralized decision making, and a strong sense of respect for authority. A good way to showcase this is through examples of high power distance cultures, like countries such as China and the United Arab Emirates, which have historically had strong central governments, which often exhibit high power distance in their business cultures as well. Another aspect of it is the political governance. You usually see this in authoritarian or autocratic governments when it comes to high power cultures. These systems tend to concentrate power in the hands of a single leader or a small group. And this often leads to high power distance culture in business as well, where subordinates are expected to follow orders without question. Now, the other side is a power distance is low power distance. And the first way to understand this is when we look at cultures with low power distance, which value equality and minimize power differences. And this leads to flatter organizational structures, decentralized decision making, and open communication across all levels. And examples of this low power distance can be seen in countries like Denmark and Sweden, which are known for their social democracies and emphasis on equality. And they tend to have low power distance in their business environments as well. Now, when we look into the political governance, you see the low power distance in democratic type countries and governments. These systems distribute power more evenly and emphasize the importance of individual rights and participation. This tends to foster low power distant cultures in business, where employees are encouraged to contribute ideas and challenge authority when necessary. But there are a few important notes in all of this. While there's a correlation, it's not a perfect one-to-one relationship. Other factors like history, religion, and economic development can also influence a culture's power distance. So, in essence, a country's political governance can significantly influence the power distance experience in its business culture, but understanding this relationship is crucial for effective cross cultural communication and collaboration.